Yes, folks, there are three main people behind Extinction Rebellion: Simon Branwell, Roger Hallam, and Gail Bradbrook. Now, the latter two were formerly from an activist group called Rising Up, which was linked to another activist group called Compassion Revolution, which was formed by the Occupy movement. Now, these people are very radical, but before going there, let's have a look at what Extinction Rebellion protesters did at a London airport just the other day. Look at this guy up on the plane here.
Okay, here I am, top of a fucking aeroplane at City Airport. We're protesting against government inaction on climate and ecological breakdown. We can't let this go on.
I'm here for my grandchildren and all of their generation, and for the poorest peoples who are experiencing enormous suffering already.
What suffering?
And have done the least to cause it.
Taking this airport! This airport belongs to the rebellion!
No, it doesn't. It belongs to everyone.
The government has got to act!
And here's some people blocking the road.
I've glued my hands to the floor. I'm just trying to create an obstruction here. We don't want to cause problems for anybody. We don't...
You don't want to cause problems for anyone. Then stop causing problems for everyone. Anyway, now to the people behind Extinction Rebellion.
Extinction Rebellion. I mean, what is this movement? I think it's time for a serious look at Extinction Rebellion. It's British based, but has now come to Australia. And again today, it blocked key streets in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane as part of a week of protests that will peak tomorrow.
From boats to cars, these climate activists here in Brisbane are showing no signs of slowing down. Right next to me here is notorious protester Eric Herbert. Now, he's been banned from the Brisbane CBD. He's been arrested at least 11 times, but on Monday...
Yeah, so why isn't he in jail by now?
Today, he breached his bail conditions. He headed out for protest under disguise. This morning, he's chained himself to a car.
Okay, that was a taste of the excitement in several cities today, that one in Brisbane. So what do these people really want? Or more correctly, what do the people behind them really want? And I think you should be told, because this is not just the movement of global warming eccentrics and excitable kids who think the end of the world is coming. The Extinction Rebellion first made headlines just a year ago when it occupied the London headquarters of Greenpeace, saying that this radical green group had in fact failed.
This is the fourth time I've been here in the last year. The first time there was two of us and we saw the chief executive of Greenpeace and asked him to commit to mass civil disobedience to deal with the climate emergency. And he said Greenpeace wouldn't be prepared to do that.
Yeah, so even Greenpeace is not going for it.
Now that man that you just heard is Roger Hallam. He's one of three co-founders of Extinction Rebellion. The others are Simon Branwell, a former builder, and the third is Gail Bradbrook, described as an economic justice campaigner. Now, these three do believe that global warming threatens mass deaths and extinctions, or so they say, and they believe that even though life expectancy is rising and world grain crops have set new records this decade and the death rate from natural disasters has dropped 99% of the past century. We've in fact never been safer. But here is Roger Hallam, who is a former organic farmer and is now at the moment in jail for threatening to fly drones near Heathrow Airport to stop aeroplanes.
The rich and powerful are making too much money out sending the next generation to their death, and so they're not going to stop unless something dramatic happens. So the other option historically has been violence. Lots of research on violence, great for getting attention, causing disruption, and a total disaster. The third option is mass participation, civil disobedience. What does that mean? That means like thousands of people peacefully breaking the law.
Yes, but damaging someone else's property isn't peaceful.
Now, I think that these three founders of Extinction Rebellion actually want to believe in their global warming apocalypse, because it's their excuse for the revolution that they are actually planning.
People all around the world have been taking down governments, forcing regimes to come to the table for a good 100, 200 years. So it's not like anything unusual, right? It just hasn't happened in the Western world for a while.
So that is their plan, to take down elected governments in the West, elected governments. And how do they actually plan to do this?
What breaking the law does is create a dilemma for the opposition. They can either let you get away with it, in which case you've won, or they can repress you, like use violence or arrest you, in which case you've won as well.
No, you haven't won, because the public is now turning against you.
Because you produce lots of publicity. So that basically creates a tension, it creates a political drama.
So this tension that he talks about depends on the public, or more particularly our politicians and police, losing faith in our right to arrest all these protesters, to stop them. And in particular, it requires us to lose faith in democracy, in sorting out our differences with a vote. Now, Roger Hallam has in fact sure lost that faith himself, because guess what happened when Hallam stood in Britain's European election this year on his global warming platform? Of the nearly 250,000 votes, 250,000 cast in his electorate, Hallam won fewer than 1,000. He got 0.04% of the vote. So whatever is selling, voters in an election aren't buying.
Exactly.
And this points to something very important about Extinction Rebellion. It is actually anti-democratic. It cannot win at the ballot box, so now tries force. And this, in fact, is the model of so many such revolutionary groups, the Bolsheviks in Russia, for instance. But there is another revolutionary analogy, which is clear when Hallam talks about the new political system that his revolution would bring in. And it's a system of power that, yes, sounds a bit like the Bolsheviks' Soviets, but it even sounds more to me like the mob rule of the French Revolution.
Critically and most excitingly, we want a citizens' assembly, because we want these politicians out of the way so that ordinary people, a bus driver from Glasgow...
A bus driver from Glasgow who's driving a polluting bus.
Caterer from Basingstoke. Normal people come into the room a bit like a jury trial, and they decide whether they want to live or die. And if they want to die, fair enough, but we can make a prediction that people don't want their kids to die, and they'll go, OK, what's the deal? How do we transform the economy? And once those people are in charge, then you can see some real change.
That's just not the kind of thinking that in France led to the Great Terror during the French Revolution. This is not also, it's not the mad ravings of just one man in Extinction Rebellion. Co-founder Gail Bradbrook also sees Extinction Rebellion bringing about a total reorganisation of the wicked Western democracies.
For me, this is part of reweaving a human family back together again. It's part of dealing with systemic racism, white supremacy, and the wounds of patriarchy that want to separate us, make us feel powerless.
Yeah, and none of which have anything to do with the environment.
Why don't they export their little model to China, where there is a tyranny to overthrow? But they wouldn't do that. Now, I am not saying that every Extinction Rebellion protester here believes in this revolutionary anti-Western and anti-democratic agenda, but the Australian organisers do, I believe, since, well, check out their 4 demands. The 4th is to dismantle Australia's colonial systems of oppression, to decolonise and replace oppressive government structures with systems of self-management and true participatory democracy, which is that Hallam vision of people just wandering into a room, the loudest get the say, the mob rules, and that's their model. Again, this is anti-Western, it's anti-parliamentary, and it's a mix of communist and anarchist ideals that, if implemented, well, look at history. It's always led to chaos or tyranny. And yet this is a movement of our time. It comes when faith in our institutions has been white-anted, particularly in education systems, it seems to me. It comes when God is dead and our idealistic young are desperate for some great crusade that they can put down their lives for, or at least lie in the street for.
Yeah, so now for a quick look at Rising Up. And folks, I've posted a link to this site in the description below. So we have Rising Up and we have Extinction Rebellion. Rising Up is linked to Compassionate Revolution, which was birthed in the Occupy movement. So there you go, folks. These people are radicals. They want a lot more than just environmental changes. So I'll just scroll right down to the bottom here. And we have Team Great Britain. And who do we have here? Ah, yes, Gail Bradbrook. Yeah, now folks, here's a novel solution to these radical protesters.
Carrie-Anne, jail time? Is this a bit extreme?
Oh, no. No,
Really?
Personally, I'd leave them all super glued to wherever they do it, like forever, till they get themselves... the guy hanging from the Story Bridge, why send emergency services to look after or get a moron down? Leave him there till he gets himself out. No emergency services should help them. Nobody should do anything. Leave them there, and you just put little witches' hats around them and try, or use them as a speed bump.
Yes, folks, use them as a speed bump. Now, she'll probably get in trouble for that joke. But folks, we can clearly see climate change is not the main agenda. That's only a ruse. Whenever the Occupy movement is involved, we know it's about economics. The global redistribution of wealth from rich nations to poor nations.